Hey guys, Soundly here. I've been going through my old photos and this is from December 10th. It's a pretty cool shot. There's some birds flying near the horizon. You can see the water line curving on the right side there. This is definitive proof that water does in fact curve because we have the west lane, which is straight. Where it meets the water, that water line is obviously curving. That traces out the surface of the water. We all agree that water's level, so therefore level water does in fact curve. Now, this shot was taken with my camera attached to my 2032 millimeter Schmidt Cassegrain telescope. To give you an idea of just how much magnification that is, I took a wide angle shot of my telescope sitting on top of a concrete brick in the riprap on the end of the bridge. Let me show you that. Now from this shot it's hard to tell that it's even the same location. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop down on this image to where you can see that in fact the first hut is visible in this wide angle shot. Another image taken at the Little Tensas Bayou on the same day is even more revealing in my opinion. The reflection in the water, it's obvious that it has to be a curved surface. This is not a flat mirror reflecting the bridge. It's not symmetrical. This is what a curved surface looks like. The water is obviously curved. This is definitive proof. Now, what I expect from flat earthers is either one, to ignore this observation because it completely deflates their egos, or two, to come up with some perspective reason why this makes sense on a flat earth. But the reality is they do not have a coherent explanation for this observation, and they never will, because the earth is a globe. Another observation taken on the same day was of this sailboat sitting on the horizon. I took this shot from the North Shore, which is Mandeville, and that's New Orleans in the background. There are hundreds of feet obstructed. In fact, the number of observations made that day and the entire weekend, really, considering we were doing the Little Tensas Bayou experiment and observing the causeway and Lake Pontchartrain, it's just overwhelming. Only now have I gone back and looked at it and realized just how many observations I had that were just waiting to be shared with you guys. And of course, you guys have seen these before. But to realize that anyone can go here on any day and take these same observations, that should tell you something. Why haven't they? Why haven't they gone here and made the same observations? Well, the reality is they probably have. They probably have gone there. They probably have made the observations, but they don't have an explanation for them. And so what do? They hide. They divert. They conflate. But no one to this day can explain how an airplane can fly towards me and still go under the horizon while it's still hundreds of feet in the air. There are no explanations for these observations that make any sense whatsoever on a flat surface. Jesse and I both made a lot of good observations that weekend. The funny thing is, we're still doing it. How is it that someone can see these observations, can see these things, and still think there could be any plausible explanation on a flat surface? They've had years to explain these things away, and they can't even form a model. The reason they can't form a model is because they don't value formal reasoning. They play at being scientists, they act like they know what the scientific method is. They claim that they actually believe in true science, just not scientism. But the reality is, they don't even get past the first steps. In order to actually have something worth talking about, you must first take a collection of observations, notice patterns in those observations, and with induction come up with a broad generalization, which is basically a guess at how things work. You take these guesses and you form them into a model. Now, it's not yet a theory, but eventually you'd like it to become one, in the scientific sense. See, a theory is something that has been well tested. It's something that we know that all of our observations match when we compare them to our model. That's what forms a theory. But until you've created a model, you can't even take the first steps into producing a theory. So calling something the flat earth theory is ridiculous. Of course, forming a model doesn't mean you have a basis for believing the model represents reality. You have to infer the expectations of your model. Given your model, what does it predict about reality? And once you have those predictions, then you have to test those predictions. That's where you generate a hypothesis. You generate your hypothesis, you test that hypothesis, and then either your hypothesis is supported or rejected. And here's the key part, and this is where flat earthers fall off the rails yet again. If your hypothesis is rejected, you cannot change your hypothesis. That leads you into the rabbit hole. If your hypothesis is rejected, you have to invalidate your theory and start over with observations. This type of formal reasoning is a process that refines models. Where your model fails to conform to reality, it must be rejected and reworked until you have a model which, when tested, conforms to all of the observations of reality. When it comes to the shape of the earth, we have such a model, and that model is generally referred to as the globe.